Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Lack of Focus, episode 95, Mission Impossible. I am your host, Ed Horn, and alongside me tonight, my good friend, Mr. Sean Dorsey. Sean, how's it going, my friend?
Good, Ed. How you doing?
Good. And of course, our producer extraordinaire, one Mr. Kris Sheriff. Kris, how's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks, Ed.
I feel like you should edit over like duty-free versions of the Mission Impossible theme song with the title. But of course, we now have a little bit more information, actually quite a bit of information on what the missions are going to look like
Yeah.
moving forward for organized play.
Courtesy of the Fly Better podcast, they did an interview with two of the AMG devs, so that was a fun listen.
Yeah, and we'll have to absolutely link to that because I haven't sat down and listened to it myself, so this is going to be my. I did read through them, but I mean, I still like hearing from the developers, especially from the AMG side.
I would say it's well worth a listen. It's very insightful into them as people, as well as like the design philosophies and stuff like that.
Right, that's exactly what I'm hoping to hear. So we
I
do have
would
ideas.
actually, well, if I listen to it, Chris, that'll break my 10-year
Not listening to X-Wing
to any podcast. I've never listened to any podcast.
So the good thing, it didn't feel like listening to a normal episode of Fly Better. I still had my moments of like just wishing that we as not an industry, we as like a group of people who do this kind of thing were better. Because I'm really good at like criticizing other people after the fact. I'm really good at that. It's like a skill that I've honed over many years of my life. I'm like, oh, that man, Ryan, that's not how you term a question. Oh, come on, D, just spit it out. God, you wouldn't want to waffle on and go on 15 tangents. Jesus. Oh, who'd you think you are?
Well, and I'm kind of curious to see how AMG handled the PR for that one. So, for example, way back in the early histories of Never Squadron Radio, one of the things that kind of got us on the map in the first place was our interview with Alex Davey, and that was something that I had to go through FFG and pre-send them the questions that were going to be asked, because obviously I needed to be careful in what I asked him because he could only answer so much. We were still knee deep into the development phase at that point. So they had to pre-approve the questions. So anytime I've ever spoken to anyone official from at least FFG standpoint, I had to go through that process. So we had a couple of the developers on. Even whenever we did our interview at Worlds, or even we did Worlds and we did Nova Open, we interviewed both of them. We had to be kind of careful on what we could and couldn't ask, that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of curious if they had those kinds of rules or if they were just like loosey goosey. Like
I know before like they delayed releasing the episode because they'd had to go through legal, so I assume they did it and then
that makes
sent
sense.
the entire thing and then it went from there.
Yeah, I didn't have to send the product to them after the fact.
Different.
Different policy. Like when they knew what they were getting into, they were kind of okay with that.
Cool. Yeah, they did a good job. I enjoyed it.
No, I'll have to add that to my list. I've been stuck on a couple of other podcasts recently, so I will have to take a palate cleanse for that one and kind of sit down and listen to that. So, in any case, obviously, what have we been doing lately? Sean, how about you? We'll kick off with you. We always seem to kick off with you because basically Kris carries this section anyway.
Pretty much. I've been running from zombies. That's pretty much been my gameplay for the last week. It's been Project Zomboid on steroids and playing with the settings in the Sandbox edition so I can see what it's like when you're really screwed over or when it's really easy to try to find a balance. But mostly that's about it for me. I've been working. Was sick most of the week, so.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I caught a stomach virus, and now I'm getting I'm thinking I have multiple things, but I'm starting to get that sinus congestion and chest congestion. So the week before at work, I had to go into dorm rooms where I work and do assessments on the rooms, and anywhere you go where there's dorm rooms, it's just a cornucopia of disease. So yes. I think I caught a stomach virus, that pretty much had me out Tuesday, Wednesday. I worked Monday and Thursday from home, and then I took Tuesday, Thursday off trying to deal with fever. And now I'm coming up. I haven't been anywhere else, but I'm coming up now with sinus and all that. So I'm hoping it's not a COVID thing, but if it is, I'll have to deal with it.
Yeah, I didn't want to say the C word. I said enough of that last week whenever we recorded, but you
Yeah.
never
Do
know.
we get demonetized, Chris, if we
No,
say it?
so
Okay.
That was just the early days of YouTube whenever they, nobody was allowed to talk about it because they didn't want to spread misinformation and all that. I think
Yeah.
they've kind of loosened those reins since then.
since
But
it
yeah,
just
so
became
that's
norm.
Yeah.
it's everyday life. So if I do, I'm fully vaccinated and boosted, and I take multivitamins every day, and vitamin D and vitamin B and all this other crap, and so hopefully I might have to put like a vitamin C boost into my life for a little bit.
Just kind
But
of
other
push
than
push
that,
through it.
yeah, and hope that it doesn't go too far, and you know, I mean, I don't have the best nervous system, so that's the only thing that worries me is my nervous system, which affects my immune system. So
Yeah.
I just have to be mindful about everything. But if I am, I'll deal with it, and we'll just take it 1 minute, 1 day at a time, and might give me some time to sit down and build some X-wing lists for our next show
There you go. There you
to
go.
try out and work with. So other than
Nice.
that, I haven't really been doing much. Just Project Zomboid. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole on the show because that could get pretty deep and gruesome. But I'm trying to think. And been working a little bit trying to get some models built for 40K, but haven't been able to really sit down and do that enough because I want to get my Space Marines done. So I have a full army so that my son and I, can play a full game of 40K.
What do you call on a full game? Are you talking like full 2,000 points? Are you talking like 1,000 points? What do you think
At
is
least at least 1,000.
yeah.
So I had the first battle box, and then I have some other stuff that I had bought separate, and then I have the Blood Angel battle box, which I'll put together. That's the one I want to assemble. I had been working on the kill team stuff, but once again, that's kind of been on the back burner. I've been busy at home trying to get stuff done, and which I've gotten most of that stuff done. I have one more small project to do, then I can actually spend time doing other stuff.
Yeah,
But I want to get
That Blood Angel one's really good. I mean, and all you have to do is just not put the Blood Angel iconography on there because it's a separate sprue, and
or
they can be from any chapter.
or I could just not care about that and do it however I want to, and they're still
Yeah,
whatever I want them to be.
this is
So,
true.
for the purist, that the one on my right screen up there, wants to say, because I probably won't put the black in the gun, at the end of the gun and all that, or drill them out so that they look like real guns, things like that, But it's for my son and I to play
I
and to
know.
enjoy. So
I tried not to audibly gasp whenever you said you weren't drilling out the barrels because it's I think I've mentioned this before. That's like easily one of my favorite pet peeves is when you see the non-drilled out barrels. Like, oh come on, just a little bit. But that's okay. That's okay. It'll be fine.
well, if I do it, I have a drill that I'll actually do them with the drill. So, but I'll have to figure out how to do all the securing and everything. So it's like a drill press,
Yeah,
so you're just
yeah, I could
dropping
see
it in
that.
and pulling it out.
I could see that.
That'll just, I can actually get into building something like that. But if I'm doing that, then I'm not building models.
Yeah, yeah, I
It's kind
understand.
of a 6,001 on that one. So, but I have my whole model station done finally. So then I moved my podcast stuff back to the main computer now that it's rebuilt. I just got to move the camera over, which it's a little more difficult with this setup because of how the monitor setup.
Yeah,
So I
your
gotta,
command center level of monitors.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty brutal right now. So, but we'll see. But anyway, that's pretty much where I'm at with my gaming this week. And of course, with everything closed down, it's actually hard to get to like some place to sit and play a game too. That's
Yeah.
the other difficult side of this. Where I don't mind tabletop simulator, but I have to really be in the mood to do it. It's just one of those things because every time it'll be, hey Kris, how do I do this? Hey Kris, how do I do this? 'Cause
Yep. I know
I
that. I
don't
know
I
that
don't
feeling.
I don't do it enough, and I still really like the game just on a face to face, that personal level.
So
But
are you guys back down to COVID restrictions as far as like stores are closed down now?
no, but it's hard to find game space. The biggest game store, which is the game shop, hasn't reopened their game space. So
Gotcha.
now I could go over to my son's place and he set up his big alpha table and stuff. We could play over there, but it's just I'd rather play within the community and stuff. The Omaha X-Wing group has done stuff at the Omaha Bakery, which is a tiny little. They could fit like 8 people in there, but that's too small of a space for me. When it comes to, I would like good ventilation and
Yeah.
large gaming space for me to
Yes.
be comfortable in this world of the COVID that it is. So, but anyway, we'll end mine now so that Kris can take the next 40 minutes.
No, I'll take 5 before I'll pass on there. I physically interacted with other humans this week that I don't live with and I don't work with. I made it to the game store post COVID. I was so happy to be able to physically get up there. Gabe and I packed our armies up and planning to play some games. Unfortunately, everybody was filled up with the exception of Chad, who came up to play. So I let Gabe take that game, and I spent most of my time just kind of like hanging around and interacting. I answered a lot of questions about the league, which is going to start next week. We were thinking about starting it this week, but Warhammer 40K's new points are going to drop today. They should have dropped today.
I think they're right now.
So
Yeah,
so we wanted to give everyone kind of a week to work with the new point system. So why start a league with points on week 1 and then points change on week 2? Felt kind of awkward and weird. So we decided to just kick it off on this upcoming week on Tuesday. But it was kind of nice to get out of the house and interact and talk geek and sit down and discuss, Sisters of Battle lore and Death Guard lore while we're all kind of. It was just nice. It was just nice to get back out and get back out, watch dice get thrown. It was great. It was a lot of fun. So while I didn't get a chance to play, I did take my stuff. I had full intentions of playing if anyone there was open table. But the upside was there was 5 games going on at the game store, including Gabe and Chad's game, which is again probably the most amount of people that I've seen in that store for a while. All playing 40K all at the same time, which is kind of nice. So really looking forward to starting the league next week. Beyond that, I think my PS3 flipping business is up and running. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I've decided I fixed 2 PlayStation 3s, one the backwards compatible that one have here, and then I hacked one that I put upstairs in the living room so I can actually play it because the kids are always down here playing on the computer, so I never get a chance to be down here. But then I started really enjoying the taking apart things and putting them back together and fixing them and cleaning them up kind of thing. I'm really enjoying it. So I've been Facebook marketplacing and offer up PlayStation 3s for like $20-$30. Get them home, clean them up, repaste them, put them all back together, and I've been putting them on eBay. So if you're interested at all and you want a PlayStation 3 that was cleaned and modified and restored by one of your favorite podcast hosts, they're on eBay. You can find them. I am putting them up. Not that I'm curious to see if they go or not. I'm actually really, because that's going to be the one that kills me if I go through all the effort of doing it and then nobody buys them. I'm like, oh wow, this is only interesting to just me. Damn it.
yeah.
I'm accepting that that's a possibility.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'll spend more money on alcohol and pissed it up the wall later.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I 100% agree with that. What I don't want to do is I don't want to leave my leave my wife with a situation where we have 3 PlayStation 3 sitting upstairs that are all on eBay right now that are need to go out the door
Yeah.
because that there's technically 5 in this house right now, and only 2 of them I want to keep. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what I've been doing. That's legitimately pretty much the most I've been doing. I'm doing a little bit of the hacking and modding into the PS3 OS, which has been interesting. I haven't really get much anything else and much gaming other than that. But I am gearing up, getting ready. League starts on Tuesday. I'll have a lot more to talk about next week or next show. Chad always yells at me for that. He always says, "You always say next week when it's really 2 weeks." You're right. Next show, I will have more to talk about because I have.
Wishing our lives away. That's all.
That's what it is. That's what it is. All right, Kris, time for you to carry us all.
Yeah, I don't know. I played. Did I play Arkham this week? No, I did. That was last week. I don't even know. So we played D&D on Monday. I painted on Sunday.
We're not dead. We're not dead yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
You guys did well. It could have. There was a few dicey moments. Like I think Strad missed 3 times in a row, to kill Sean.
Yeah.
He did.
I was chatting to one of the guys I play Arkham Horror with, who's DMing a campaign at the minute as well. I was saying I think it was a round where I'd put Sean down, and I was like, all I have to do is put 1 attack into him, and he's dead, like dead.
Yes.
But I wasn't 100% sure that I'd TPK you all. And the last thing I wanted was to kill 1 player at this point in the game.
I think, and this is again just my non-professional opinion, I think if Sean goes down, because right now we've done the smart thing, the thing that they always tell you to do in D&D, which is split the party, which is what we've done inadvertently, not by design, but we have inadvertently split the party to where there's basically 2 combats going on. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for everyone. I'll try not to get too much in the weeds and the details, but basically we have split the party where there's people above fighting a combat and there's people below in a tower that are fighting a combat, and we all really kind of need to be together in order to be able to combine our forces and Voltron our way through this. Since we're not doing that, I am not hopeful of our chances, because all it's going to, like, we're burning through spells quickly.
I do think this. I think that when a certain character fell, and not the second character, but the first character,
yes,
that fell, it changed how we had to play the game. And I think that we lost focus on that to where you and I instantly, well, at least I did, instantly went down because there was no reason to be up. And then you followed suit.
Yep.
And then, of course, we had the second person fall from the long distance, which basically forced the bottom to be the main focus of the game. But
Correct.
we've had others who have focused on this other path back down, which literally, like Kris was saying, put me on the edge of death. What I think it was four rounds.
Easy.
It was 4 rounds because I jumped and lost, minimal hit points for the jump, and then I took a crap ton of damage from the off character, not Strahd.
Rahadin.
And I had, Rahadin, and then I had to heal back up from that. And then Strahd put me down. You healed me. Strahd put me down again. You healed me again.
Yep.
And then Strahd left because of circumstances, and then came back. And
because I cast my 7th level sleep.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was a highlight for me.
But I was already down.
What do you mean I get no save? Unlucky.
No.
Yeah. But lucky for me, though, I was already down, so it didn't affect
me. Yeah.
And you were able to come and heal me again to get now. I think we're at the point where it's Strahd's still there, and Strahd's going to attack me again. And if he does it this time, I do think we're TPK at that.
Yeah, because I'm out of.
Yeah, and our other healer is too far away.
You got daylight off, so that
I did get daylight off. I did get daylight off.
good point.
Yes. I mean,
So
but
game
we
changing.
don't.
Oh, we'll see.
But does it affect Strahd? That's my biggest question because we don't know. Because I just got it off and we ended. So we'll have to see how it affects everything from there. And I'm interested to see because truthfully, if you did not jump, the game would be over, essentially over.
Oh yeah, no, we'd be dead.
Yeah, but we're already halfway there because I'm halfway out of healing spells. So
That's what I'm saying. Like I like how Kris is like, oh, if I take Sean down, will I TPK the party? Yes, because we're
yes,
completely out of healing at that point.
yes, and you
For the
won't be
most part. For the most part.
nobody else will be able to use the
The
whatchamacallit
paladin
to
can
do,
use it.
but he has to attune to it first.
Oh, true.
Yes, it actually says I have the paper right here.
Oh yeah.
It states that you
Uh-huh.
have to attune, which is a long rest. Where are we going to get a long rest
Never
in
again.
this? Yeah, exactly. So we're literally going to be, kind of like Lord of the Rings, where they're holed up in the throne room where Gimli sees his cousin dead there, and waiting for Chad to knock the armor down the well so it wakes up the Balrog.
You don't think he already did that when events happen that happened? I think that ship has already sailed.
Yes, by far. So yeah, that's sorry to add or jump
No, it's
into
good, man.
this,
Um,
but that is, and I didn't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to spoil on mine.
yeah.
I didn't want to spoil everything, but since you brought it up,
Yeah, since you brought it up.
Yeah.
since you brought it up,
I've been enjoying it now. The last couple of sessions have been the highlights for me anyway. So it's been good.
it's been interesting.
I've
It has
been
definitely been interesting.
I've been going to the gym to just walk around the track. It's like an indoor running track. I've just been going out. Like when Evie's been in daycare, I've been. When Evie's had like classes, I've been. And then I've taken Evie and they've done like the daycare thing in there. Like they'll look after for up to 90 minutes, and then afterwards we've gone swimming and stuff. So I've been doing that. I've walked like 50 kilometers this week.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's been good.
Very good.
I'm exhausted. I worked Tuesday night and got home at like 4. I was at work last night until I got home at like 4 again. So I'm working on like 5 hours sleep at minutes. If you see me like flagging,
Nodding off.
yeah. I did get 2 games of X-Wing in last night as well, which is the first time in a while. I feel like it feels like November, early December, the last time I played.
Ooh.
Just because I've had some like work and trying to get caught up, and then obviously didn't go after the surgery on my nose and everything.
Obviously.
But yeah, it's been good. I posted the lists I used in Discord. But my first game, I wanted to try the IGs. So I did IGB with synced cannon and the IG 2000 title. So that's just his ability is if you miss with a shot, you can shoot again with a cannon.
Yep.
The synced cannon is range 2 to 3, a 3 dice attack. If you are calculating, the defender doesn't add the range bonus. So as long as you still have a calculate token when they get the green dice, they don't have they don't get a range 3. And then IG 2000 title lets them steal abilities, obviously. Then IGA, so that I can show calculate tokens, because this one's got synced cannons as well. So the idea was that they'd just pass tokens to each other, so that even if I had to spend like 2 tokens, it'd still be 1. Then for the
one available.
Yeah, but I went a different way to the list Sean made. I went and added a 3rd ship. So I was trying to find another droid, that had a crew slot, so that I could put the IG 88D crew on it. So
There you go.
I went with L3 in the Falcon with Lando crew, IG crew, Agile Gunner, Dettered Man Switch, and the Falcon title. I played against Matt, who's one of the patrons in our Discord and everything. And yeah, he ran a Republic list after we'd had a bit of a debate last week about the lat and how you tool it out and how many points to invest in it. And I've been like an advocate of you just keep it cheap because it's got to be your support ship. The more points you spend on it, the more it's got to carry, and it's just never going to carry. So he went with Hound and 7th Fleet Gunner. Obi-Wan Kenobi with Predator, Plo Koon with Calibrated, and Ahsoka with Calibrated. And I did a bunch of damage to Hound early, and then started just taking shots on other things as I thought I could, like, I could one-shot these Jedi in this turn, and then just didn't. And I kept relying on unmodified shots because I'm like, well, if I miss, I get a second shot anyway. So I can bump here to make sure I get a good range 0, a good range 1 shot. I think it was like a turn where I got like a range 1 shot at Obi-Wan if I bumped, but then missed. So then I had to take a second shot at somebody else because I can't use my cannon at range 1. So just like stupid little intricacies like that I forgot about. And all the while, Matt's like just recharging 7th Fleet Gunner on his lat, which lets him add an extra attack dice on an attack. So he's got like Ahsoka at range 1 or something, just rolling 4 attack dice and then adding in a focus result. And it's like, oh, look at that, 5 damage. I'm like, I've made mistakes here. So I ended the game with like the lat was on 1 or 2 health, Ahsoka was on 1 health, Obi-Wan was on 1 health, but all my ships were dead. I'm like, this just feels bad. I just played so just like really stupid common you know what I mean?
Yep.
And
What happened?
I felt really good. Halfway through the game, L3 died. Deadman switched a bunch of stuff. I think it got both IGs as well. And I was like, oh, it's okay. I've got enough health here, and I've damaged everything. So it's just a case of going around, picking a target, clean it up, pick a target, clean it up, and then I'll win. And at no point did I manage to do any of that. And I think Matt guessed right on which swoop I would do, like 3 out of 4 times and stuff. And so I must be too predictable on which I must always sweep left, think I'm a jump master or something. I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting. I said to him, I wouldn't mind. Go on, Sean.
I think with IGs, Chris, you have to set everything up. You know, everything about the IG turn is you have to almost like chess. You have to think 3 turns ahead. You know, just because they're such a weird ship. You know?
Well, I have this thing about like not chasing the gimmick kind of thing, and I'd made this gimmick of IGA effectively is just a gimmick because you get to pass the calculate tokens, and every time you calculate, they get 2. So I had it all how it would work in my head. I can target lock here, and I can pass a token from this ship and a token from this ship, so we'll have a target lock and 2 calculate. So that'll be my 1 good shot. But because they're all the same initiative, I can shoot with the other one first, and
strip a token off or 2.
Yeah, but then I was like opting into stupid exchanges where I was like bumping. Like even like right at the end, I've got like a 1 or 2 hull IG left. Everything else is dead, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot a soak with my primary first so I can double tap, and then I missed, and I was like, oh, this is IGA, so I don't get to double tap. I'm like, just stupid. I felt out of practice, but then I made up for it in my second game. you know, it was good. I played the Republic this time. So I played my version of a list that I told Matt about that I was going to bring, which was the same lat. So a lat with the 212th Battalion pilot, so the cheapest generic, with just Agile Gunner as the only upgrade. And I'm really liking Agile Gunner on the lat. I'm a big fan. Then I went with 3 Initiative 4 pilots, which I just think are pretty solid. So I had Shakti with Brilliant Evasion, so she's in the Ada, and her ability lets spend force to carry tokens over into the next round. So it's like she was going into engagements with a 3 green dice and 2 evade tokens and a force. Like,
Oh.
yeah, just what are you gonna do? And then Luminara is with R4 Astromech and Delta 7B. So she her ability lets you turn your opponent's dice from hits to focuses or from crits to hits through spending force. So again, another defensive ability. And then Anakin Skywalker, baby Anakin in the N1 though,
Yeah, yeah.
with advanced proton torpedoes. And as much as Chad would mock me for saying it, like, and I can hate him in the movie, but damn, is it fun to fly that shit. N1 Annie is just a joy to fly. If you haven't done it, I can only recommend, like, 46 points for Anakin with advanced proton torpedoes. That's it. 46 points.
Yep.
And like every round, I was playing against Jeff, who was running. He had Warthog in the lat, which keeps your generics on the table so you can't PS kill them. And he had 3 V19s, all with concussion missiles and synchronized consoles. So after they can
Hmm.
pass their target lock to somebody else after they shoot. And then an Initiative 2 Arc 170 that had Wolfpack on board. So if you shoot at anyone and they've got you in arc with the Wolfpack ship, they can get a target lock. So whoever I shot, if Wolfpack could see them, they'd take a stray and get a target lock, and then everyone can use that target lock because you just sync console it around. So it can be like 3 missiles shot at you if you do it wrong. So every round I was like, okay, if I go here, this is where the arcs are going to be. So I can be out of it here. I can shoot this guy with this ship and just trying to, like, what is it? The meme that isn't Julia Roberts, so everyone thinks he's Julia Roberts, so just like the math meme of me trying to figure out which shots I could take and where I could put myself. But it was a couple of times where it's like, I got Anakin's advanced proton off. It was the first time I was at range 1 and could take a target lock because I wasn't going to get shot. I just fired the advanced proton because it doesn't, like, there isn't an ace I need to keep scared in that list. But then I just had Anakin behind him, and it was like, okay, I've blocked Anakin this time. It's like, okay, so I'm going to barrel roll out before I reveal my dial, but it doesn't count as a barrel roll. So I'm going to execute my move. So I'm going to barrel roll back in. He thought he'd blocked me with the Arc 170, which has got the rear arc. So I barrel rolled out, did my 3 bank, got my 3 evade, but then I'm at range 1 in his rear arc. So then I just barrel rolled back to where I would have been, but not blocked. I'm like, yeah, Anakin's awesome, and then just pumped fire into him again. But yeah, just, it was a bunch of like little cool interactions like that where like having to run early with Luminara because he shot Luminara with like 3 ships and rolled nothing but blanks. Got 3 hits at range 3 obstructed with the arc, and then I blanked out and just lost all my shields. I was
Ah.
like, I kind of feel bad, but then I did just like, this is the 4th shot she would have weathered this round. And it's like, yeah, I had a token stacked because of Shakti. I had her ability, so I weathered a good amount of fire. I was like, just that one extra shot that I could have like not taken. But yeah, the lats just make the fire pretty consistent, and I managed to deliberately land on a rock so I could make sure the lat arc was pointed in the right direction with Agile Gunner, and then got 2 kills that turn to, like, end the game and force Jeff to concede. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. Agile Gunner just because if I hadn't have had Agile Gunner, I would have landed on the rock, but not been able to turn my arc because I landed on the
Right.
rock. So because I got to do the end phase, I was like, yeah, see, I knew I was right all along. But yeah, I Agile Gunned like
Justified.
3 times in that game, and yeah. But it meant every round that the lat was shooting with like a focused shot at like targets and stuff. So, and it's 50 points. It's super cheap. Oh, it's not super cheap, but it's a decent. I think it's a good support ship at that point.
Cheap enough for
Yeah.
what it does.
Well, it's got 2 charges that you can spend to let you re-roll up to 2 attack dice as long as the lat has you in arc. So keeping the lat's arc on stuff is important, but it's also an unmaneuverable brick that's on a medium base. So yeah. But I really enjoyed that list actually. We played I think we were playing 12 rounds and we played what do you call it? Road. That was the only
Ah.
random stuff we messed around with. I
Did that
think
have
we
any effect on your game? Because you said you had a bunch of PS4s on your previous game.
just a lot. The lot was the only overlap because his V19s and his arc were initiative 2. So he had 4 initiative 2s, I had 1. Then he had initiative 3, and then I had the other initiative 4s. So I had 3 aces on the table in that game. And it like we were talking about it, and it was like he wanted to make the same type of list but keep Anakin as the I6. I'm like, I don't think you can. I don't think you can get good enough other ships because he runs something similar, but with 7 Fleet Gunner instead of Agile Gunner and Anakin, which means he's got to take like Click as his 4th ship, which is just a V-wing. So it doesn't do anything. And I'm like, nah, I think I'd rather have the 3 I4s, and I'll just try and rely on the fact that Anakin's got advanced proton torpedoes to scare the crap out of people. Like, you can't bring Fel anywhere near that. Even Vader in the Defender doesn't want to get shot off the advanced protons. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah,
good.
actual X-Wing gameplay.
Yeah,
It
it
does
was
happen
good.
from time to time.
I really enjoyed it. I was trying to think. So obviously we've been chatting about looking at missions and stuff, and then
Yeah.
I played, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll miss just dogfight. 'Cause there is a purity to it,
Well, and it's not
but
necessarily going away. It's just going to be 25% of what you're playing as opposed to 100%.
no, I mean it's hard because I'm really on board with all of the changes.
Hmm.
I'm excited for everything I've heard, but I play some games like I did last night where it's just like no pressure game, just playing for fun, no concerns about like winning tournaments or that, none of that style of play at all. And I'm like, is there anything wrong with X-Wing? Like, if everyone's games were just like this, just playing with like garbage lists you threw together that day that you don't really care, you know what I mean? Putting lats on the table, just messing around. I think like X-Wing's a really, really good game.
Yeah,
And
that unfortunately, that if is carrying a lot of weight.
yeah, in that sentence,
Yes,
if
in that sentence, that if is carrying a lot of weight. All right, so let's kind of get on to the. I don't want to cut you off. Are you
no, I
done?
think it
I should.
segues pretty well. I mean,
Oh, I was gonna say because it seemed like you were setting it up. We're almost professionals at this.
yeah,
So that does set us up for discussing the missions. Obviously, we've got the interview that we've had a little bit more insight as to how the missions are going to work. We knew ahead of time that there were going to be 4 missions, if I'm not mistaken. We had an inkling that there were going to be 4, and we had a sort of pseudo idea of how they were going to work. But let's get into it. So, as intimated before, dogfighting is going to be the first one we're going to cover, which is basically it's a regular dogfight. Doesn't really change anything more than there is no mention as to whether or not half points is going to be a thing or not. We can kind of assume it still is. One objective on the board. I'm just reading directly from Chris's notes to make sure I
Yeah,
don't
so
miss it.
this was transcribed in a different Discord.
Mhm.
Sorry, pardon me, I'm going to cough.
And hence the reason why he has a cough button.
Yeah, I remembered this time.
Look at that.
So this can't be credited to me, it's other people's words, but it's effectively just paraphrasing what AMG spoke about on Fly Better podcast. So yeah. The only thing that is interesting is that they've added an objective to the center of the board in the dogfight.
Yeah.
So, do you want to
What?
expand
Sure.
on
So
that?
there will be one objective in the center of the board, which gives you 1 point per round if you are the player with a ship within range 2 of it, basically preventing fortressing. And they seem to be really focusing on that. Fortressing must be something that they sat down and saw other worlds events, other nationals events, where they saw people fortressing and going, "No, that's not cool. That is not something." By technically in the rules, it's in the game. You can do it. We're going to discourage you from doing it as much as possible.
It's not just
I
like
I still don't see the issue with fortressing, but I
I mean,
get that there's lists out there that people have done it, but is that the majority of X-wing?
Sean, I don't know how else to put it. I feel like we're all in the same age group that we can kind of get. There is a generation of people that are currently walking around right now that feel that they shouldn't feel bad about
but
things.
it's not even that. It's like the reason people fortress is because the game rewards you for fortressing.
Right. There's
If
a
the game
strategic
like
reason.
so they're not banning fortressing, they're just making the game not encourage it anymore.
I get that. My
Right.
whole point though is so, and this is just me, and this is the way that my brain works. But if you're doing it because 0.001% of all X-wing games in the last 10 years has had fortressing, then you're
But
kind of
I feel like you're focusing too hard, I think, on one aspect of what this changes. Because what this means is like if you want to hang back for a couple of turns to get a better engagement, the jousting list that's going to fly into the middle can get a head start now. So
no,
then
I
you've
understand.
got to balance. Like it's not just like the fortress that you're thinking of sat in the corner self bumping. It's the Star
No,
Vipers
I know that
flying around
I know that
the
there's Star
side.
Vipers. I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
Phantoms. Even just normal ace play, like
Why
what we
don't we
would.
call that lack of engagement then? Because
But
it's not
but
really.
again, this is just someone else paraphrasing from an interview that said
No,
fortressing.
that's not what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I get her. It's just by putting that there, and I just the fixation on fortressing is just what has my brain as limited as it is, not getting where all of the concept of this is coming from. Because I mean, if it is that big of a problem, then just make it a you cannot do it. Red
But
stops, white stops no longer exist.
but
Self bumping causes
they
damage.
do. But that they're doing self bumping causes damage. Like they're
Well, that's what I'm
doing that as
saying.
well.
Then you're that. Don't worry about putting something in the middle of a board because somebody wants to beat their own ships up. If somebody wants to do that, then or hear
That's what I'm
me out
saying.
on this.
It's not just about forcing though. It's just doing like it's to balance that if I swoop in on turn 11 or in the 70th minute of the game, claim half points on a ship, and then run for the rest of the game, this is to stop that kind of like the slow play, the stalling. Like we've all seen ace players do this kind of thing.
Oh yeah, no, I get that.
It's to give. It's just to change that average of like if you're going to sacrifice what a point a turn. So if you take the first 6 turns not engaging, they're going to be 6 points up. And one thing to clarify is that it looks like the way we're talking about it is that the ship points costs are divided by 10 to work out
Yeah,
scenario points.
we had
Yeah,
intimations
So
about
like
that too.
one
down to 20.
1 point isn't 1 point, it's 10 points in your head of thinking about
Yes, no, I get that. But
yeah.
Because you're playing to 20.
Yeah.
but if half points are still a thing, so if we're talking about half points still being part of the game, here's just I believe in simple solutions. Bumping cause damage, and if you use red stop or white stop, it causes damage. You know, you get where I'm coming from with this. That discourages it more if half points still exist.
Yeah, but
If
that's only one aspect of the stalling though. Like I'm thinking the same thing like you were talking about with aces and how they were like I remember playing games where you're getting down to like the last 30 minutes, and this is back whenever they were still doing it by time. I get that that's a bygone era, but I can imagine a scenario where you're down to like your last 3 or 4 turns, and I've got a ship with slam, and I'm just going to keep hitting fives, fours, threes, and threes, and as long as I don't lose another point of damage, I win the game. It's the same scenario. It's not necessarily fortress in the corner and not engage. It's
Yeah,
let me ask you
disengage.
something. So, but here I have to ask this then. But isn't that part of strategy in the game? I mean, if you're
Yes, it
building, I mean,
was.
Okay, Sean, just let me come back at you then and say, like,
okay,
but it's so if it's a strategy that is uncounterable, like there is no counter to it, there is nothing that I can do with the ships that I have on the table to counter your strategy of just running away and not playing the game. How do you fix that?
how do you? I mean, that's part of the game. It's
Why though? Why is
well, why
that part of the
not?
game?
I mean, you build a
Because
ship that
so
can slam.
you're saying that there should be parts of the game that have no counterplay at all, no matter what you do on the table.
I think that's part
It
of
shouldn't
list
matter.
building. I think that if they had things that they took out. The 360 turret was a counterable thing. There were things that actually countered it, but
No,
they took
so
those out of the
I'm
game.
talking about a time when we had 360 turrets. I 100% guarantee you that if I'm playing Miranda and I'm up with like 10 minutes left, you're never shooting her again.
I had that happen to me.
Yeah, like I'm just
I
gonna
get
slam
that.
I'll slam. I'm gonna advance slam, and you get actions.
See the reason why, Chris, because I played against those lists. I played against the Cornhorn R2D2 get the hell out of Dodge lists, and for me, I never had a problem. If my
Great.
list
Well
could,
done.
if
But
my list couldn't counter that, if what I brought to the table, it's just like I play a lot of Magic still online, and I also understand the rock paper scissors gaming of games. Where if I'm up against a list that has a ship that can slam, my thought process in playing against that list is I got to take that fucking thing off the table
yeah.
first.
But what I'm
And if
saying,
I
Sean,
can't do
is
it, so be it.
yeah. But what they're saying is they disagree with you. They think that the options that get made on the table are what should matter. Therefore, if you want to do it at the end, you have to have made a big enough lead that the other person can then try and claim the
I
objective
get it. No,
and
I
get
get it. I
points.
just don't. I don't. Me personally, and I'm not knocking it, Chris. I'm actually not. What I'm saying is I don't see the need for it, but I understand why. I I, I understand why because your argument is a very realistic argument. But in my experience playing the games, I never had a problem if my list could
But
defeat a
I never
ship.
had a problem playing against TIE Phantoms when they were first released.
I didn't
I
either. In essence, I just hated the
yeah,
ship. I thought it. I
like,
thought it was a bad ship for
I
the game.
never had a problem playing against Advanced Cloaking Device Veteran Instincts Whisper.
Ugh.
Like I could beat it, so what does it
Yep.
matter?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're,
Like
That's my whole point.
But so I feel like that's not a good argument for not changing something for a better.
No, that isn't here. I'm just saying, from my point of view, I don't see the necessity for this. But for what AMG wants to do with the game, I understand it.
Yeah.
I just don't. I personally, don't think it's necessary because once again,
none of it's necessary though, Sean. Because like I said, if everyone played the way we play X-Wing, none of this would be necessary. We could just keep the game as it is right now.
I get it. No, I understand, but I'm not. I'm only speaking from my personal opinion and experience. I don't understand why it's necessary, but whatever. If that's what they're going to do, that's what they're going to do, and I don't have a problem because guess what? I'm going to try to build lists that take advantage of it. But one thing I'm afraid of is that now you're putting other things in the game. And hear me out on this. You're putting bumping rules in, you're putting stalling rules in, you're putting all these other things in that because you have an objective in the middle of the table that people are going to be trying to capitalize on, you can have the opposite effect where everybody's just smashing together in the middle, and that creates another whole issue down the road.
Yeah.
Because of that. That's what I'm saying is that you're kind of solving a problem by creating a problem. You're not.
I mean, until we know what the rules are, we don't know if this creates a problem, though.
Right. But if what we've heard, and I'm going off what we've heard the rules are to this point, if that is the case, from what AMG has stated in streams and whatever, that could create another problem. I work in a line of work that you take all the risk into consideration before you move to your next step. And the biggest thing is that I'm never a believer in solving a problem by creating. And you may not know what the problem is when you create it, but then you're going to have to change the game again if that becomes a problem. It's just my point of view.
They're willing to do that, though.
No, I understand. I'm just saying though that you already, when you look at the X-Wing community as it is, they're already up in arms about this company. And now you're going to make this change, and then make another change, then make another change because X, Y, and Z factors are happening because of a change that you made. We need to see the rules, to me, if they change the other rules in the game around to where there's no fortressing and the bumping rules and all that, implement that first before you implement this. That's my personal opinion about it. See what those things do to the game and make the game better so that this doesn't have to be a part of it. Start with that, and then if that doesn't solve the problem, if everybody's race tracking around, trying not to shoot each other.
I honestly think that we need to play the dogfight scenario. And I feel like you think this is a lot more than it is.
I think that certain lists will easily take advantage of this over other lists.
I don't.
Because of large bases. Because of large bases.
So remember, so this only scores points if you are the only player.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I can build a list where I can sit there and just put all my crap out in front of one ship that can sit there and probably keep you away from it for 2 rounds at least.
Do you know how big a range 2 bubble around the center is? That's like over half the board.
Yeah, I know.
But
if I can force you in a dogfight, if I can put 3 large base ships somehow on the table, or 2 in mediums, or 3 mediums on the table at one time, and sit there and just throw a ship away. We used to do it with Rebel Convoy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Sean, is so that will score you 0 points because I'll have my ships flying for position while my one initiative, my one academy pilot flies into the center. So all of your big fat ships can shoot my academy pilot and not score points because that one is stopping you from scoring the points because we both have ships in range 2.
As long as you can get them there, and you still have to.
There's no way you can stop me getting an academy pilot into range 2. I don't care how many large base ships you have. I will give you 4. You're still not stopping me getting a ship within range 2 bubble.
Okay, we'll see.
Right.
We'll definitely our next show we'll have to do it.
That sounded like a
Yeah,
challenge right there.
I some of the later scenarios, I'm Team Sean. Don't get me wrong. I agree with the principle of what he's saying about large bases being able to control a lot of the objectives.
Yep.
But for the dogfighting one, because it's not about having more ships, it's I have at least one and you have 0. If we both have at least one, no one scores any points.
Right. I do understand that part of it. My biggest thing is with this though, is does this now create an element of the game where everybody's just mashing in the middle?
I don't think so. This means you can't play. Like you're playing in the zone with where the asteroids are.
Yeah, I mean, but
instead
I've
of playing in the channels, but
and you played a lot of Imperials, Kris. You've played Imperials.
Yep.
How many times do you set up on a left or right edge of the board and play the left or right edge of the board?
oh, generally, I'll play if I'm playing A Swiss. I'll do if I'm playing a 3-ship Imperial list like I was for a while with Vader and the 2 TIE RBs, or Vader and the Inquisitors. I'd have one ship in the middle and one on either flank. And turn one of those ships would have been in range 2 of the middle. Just naturally
I'm
through
saying,
flying for position.
I've just seen so many Imperial players, especially, who play the outside edge for the first 2 turns.
Yeah, I was definitely guilty of that.
You know, and then drive on turn 3. That's when they would drive through whatever rock formation or whatever they would drive into. It kind of takes that, because now you're playing the outside edge.
But the thing that I like, Sean, is that that's now a choice, though. Like there is a choice to make. Like instead of that just always being the correct answer, sometimes that will be wrong now. Whereas in before, that was never wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get where you're coming from, Kris. I just think that you're solving a problem by creating.
Yeah, I suppose I think fundamentally we just disagree that it's created a problem, because I think that there's going to be games where I would still do that and I will give you the 2-point head start, because I think that with my list that I'm playing against your list, I think that I can get more value from spending these 2 turns positioning. But there might be a turn where I want to clip the edge of range 2 on the way past, just to stop you scoring it for a turn, because I feel like I can only give you 1-point head start. All of this compounds into more decisions for me to make, which makes the game more challenging.
It's more fun to me. No, I understand that. I'm just looking at it from the play styles that I have seen and played against in the past, and basically it just makes you're putting the joust back into the game, where there was a lot of strategy without joust in the game too.
I see a lot of jousting right now, Sean. I'm sure
I do too. No, I do too. I watch Gold Squadron streams, and I actually watch a lot of X-Wing now, and the game. I mean, but they're all playing they're all playing the non-hyperspace, version of the game, which is a different game altogether than if you take just ships that are in black boxes, with the exception of the few that were 2nd edition printed ships in 1st edition. I'm
kind of curious to see what they do because you've got to figure, like, this rules pack is going to, like, whatever X-Wing 2.5, whatever title they decide to go with, is probably going to get dropped in one big rules pack. I'm kind of curious to see if those streamers will switch, or if they will be in those crowds of, I'm never changing.
I mean, what I'm talking about is, if you're looking at this for Sunday on the coffee table play, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But if you're looking at it as a tournament, or you're looking at it as local league play, things like that, it's going to be, number one, it's going to be hard for a lot of leagues to change to begin with anyway, just because everybody wants to play with all their toys. But when it comes to tournaments and tournament play, if they go to black box and the other ships, then it does change how X-Wing is played, because I've built hyperspace lists because that's what I'm hoping that we decide when we play these. We try it with hyperspace lists rather than, even though we don't know the full list that AMG is putting over the full
Well, I
rule
think
set.
what we were talking about is like a second edition format, which is like the released ships.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can't play a TIE Phantom because they've not been released. You can play
Correct.
a Rebel TIE Fighter because whilst that specific ship hasn't been released, you can buy a TIE Fighter and you can get the cardboard out of a conversion kit.
Right.
So anything that you could walk into a game store that has everything available in stock, you can fly. So you can fly Rebel Hawks, even though it's only in the Scum Aces pack. You can fly a Resistance Falcon, even though the only model currently available would be the Rebel or Scum Falcon. You can't fly a Star Fortress because it's not been re-released, and there's no
Right.
it's not in any pack. So that's what I would do, is just have some form. The only feels bad man one is that you can't fly a TIE bomber.
Yeah.
The TIE bomber has not been re-released.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though they played such a key role in Imperial history, and I just no spoilers or anything, but I just
Bombing a Mandalore.
oh, you spoiled it. I was trying not to spoil things.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
that was
pretty sure.
badass.
Well, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
and,
everyone knows that Mandalore got bombed by the Imperial.
Yeah. Especially in Mando season 3, episode 1.
Yeah.
You know,
because that's what that was. Oh my god, it was so good.
literally.
But I mean, it was
Yeah.
interesting to see like the Imperials didn't decide to do that from like an orbital bombardment. They
not
decided.
too much.
I will say I got to give Kris credit for that though, because when I sent that message over our messenger, and he put, "What do you mean, season 3, episode 1 of Mandalorian?" I laughed for probably 10 minutes. You know.
Well, and of course, I had no idea what he was talking about until I got to the end, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what that was."
Yeah.
My own.
Boba Fett wasn't even in it.
I know, and I was gonna say, like, that's probably my biggest regret. Trying not to spoil anything or storyline or whatever. That's probably my biggest concern. It was probably the best episode, in my opinion, of Boba Fett so far, and Boba wasn't in it.
Exactly. It was the best episode of Boba Fett. Just
I don't know. I don't care. I watched 4 and 5 back to back because I hadn't seen episode 4 from last week, and it flowed pretty. Like, I think if you watch it all through, I don't think you'll notice.
Yeah, no, I mean.
But anyway, I don't want to do, because we didn't do a spoiler one. I don't want to go too much onto
Yeah, we
it.
don't
want to do
deep.
anything like that. But yeah, I mean, people can not like it, but I don't care because it's fine. I don't even like Boba Fett, and I'm enjoying it enough. It's just mindless TV. It's like watching Friends. It's like watching The Office. You know, it's put something on, watch it. It's okay.
It's in the Star Wars universe. Yep. And Danny Trejo's in it. For the love of God, Danny Trejo's in Star Wars. Can we at least acknowledge that now? Anyway, I'm sorry.
Anyway, before you move on, your thoughts on Dogfight? We've had me and Sean talking for 20 minutes. Come on.
Oh, I wanted to let that debate go organically. I thought it was pretty well. Overall, I'm in the camp of. So I remember people, whenever they first announced they were going to be doing this, they thought there was a soccer ball one where they had to kick it off into the edge, and I think this is what they thought it was. It turns out that that's not the case. Personally, myself, I don't see this changing anything. The only area of concern that I think I have is in the close game. Like, how many games have you played in a dogfighting where you just eked out by 10 or 15 points a win? I'm thinking about things like scoring. How are we tracking scoring in these? Because we don't know what the determined number of rounds is going to be in the tournament level, but they gave us numbers. Let's say it's 12. Are you going to have a score sheet every round to say round 1, no one scored, round 2, I scored it, round 3, Kris scored it, round 4, Kris scored it? Because then when you get to the end, you are playing to 20 points. One or two of those could take a loss to a win. And that's the only area of concern that I have with this.
I don't believe you.
You never had
I
close
don't
games.
believe. No, I've had lots of close games.
So have I.
What happens in 40k? How many ways are we put scoring points in 40k?
Oh god. Oh no. And I
How do you
agree.
keep track of it? Oh, man, it must be really hard to figure out who won a game of 40k.
I didn't say that it was hard. I said it was going to be different. That was all. Because we're used to, at the end of the day, counting up all these points. It's because this could, especially in this particular format for dogfighting, could potentially shift a loss to a win. There's going to have to be some type of sheet or something on the table to score.
You know what it could be? A D20.
Could be.
It's got a point. Oh, I'm on 1. It's got a point. I'm on 2.
Yeah.
It's got 3 points. I'm on 5 now.
My only problem with that is some people get overzealous with their dice rolls.
Your favorite card game has roll down D20s, man.
They do, but I never use this. I always use the mechanical ones because, as all too often, sometimes we get a little overzealous with their dice rolls. And oops, oh, I know that was on an 11 before. I'm just going to put it back to an 11. Was it?
But yeah, But so where I thought you were going on this was different actually, because theoretically, like if I've got a 35-point ship,
So
I was getting there.
My question.
I was getting there.
Yeah.
So when you get half points, so everything's divided by 10, right? So let's say somebody has.
So yeah.
We assume so.
So where do scores go when it's 182? So does that mean that it's 18.2 points?
Well, that's
or we can have a rounding factor. Because
that's what I mean. Is it like
if you throw rounding into this, it changes the whole scoring system in itself.
Like I need to do.
I was ramping up into this.
Yep.
All right. So 200 divided by 35. 5. So like, it's 35 times 5. It's 7. Yeah. So I'm just being a moron. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
You can kill if a 35-point ship rounds up to 4 points. You can kill 175 points and win.
Or you can kill 150 points, score 2 objectives on this, and still win.
Yeah.
Which starts really, really starting to change the dynamics.
That's it. But so like, it's a ship count done at the end, so you take the full number.
Well,
and that's what it's weird. It's interesting.
Well, you're gonna play. You're gonna have to play a decimal point game in this because
I don't think they're going that
but my point.
I know where you're. I think I agree with where you're going, but I don't think they're going that way.
Because when you get down to it, 35 points is actually. So I always look at this backwards. So I don't look at it as a subtraction because that puts you at 165. So if you had 35 points, it's 165, which is 16.5 points on the dividing by 10. So if somebody scored 175, you had 165. For you to actually win that, you would have to claim 2 objectives.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it would end up as a tie. It would be a draw at that point. Because if you only collected 1.
Well, and there's one other factor. There's one other factor that I want to poison the well with a little bit. Keeping in mind, it's the first to 20. So I could go through, grab those early objectives in the beginning. We'll take Kris's scenario that he was talking about before, because I was thinking about this as we start. So I'm still going to play Imperials like I always play Imperials. I'm going to spend the first 2, maybe even potentially 3 rounds on the outsides, and you go ahead and score those 3 points early. I take 1 or 2 ships off the board. I'm at 18 points, and it's turn 5.
Yeah,
it's the first to 20. It could
I think games are going to end sooner.
Exactly.
Which I don't know if I care or not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know if it's good for the game or bad.
Yeah. Like,
but at one point, I've seen games end at turn 5. So, you can distribute in 1.0 prior to bombs becoming a great thing. I bought games where It's just aces list,
Yeah.
and took it off the board quickly. And aces doing the same thing to two ship lists, to a Han Solo and something else list.
Yeah. And
I don't know. Ending up with points is a good thing.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't what is it to say? I don't know. But like even if you go the other way, like if it rains down, like what the
Then it
fuck
would
happens then? Is it now impossible to win?
well, because that's the other thing that you get into. So let's say, for sake of argument, that it does round down. Then you make sure that you have all of your ships at that
At
5 or
24
below.
point, like
Yeah, a 5 or 24 or 25 points, like in and around that 4 or 5, so that you literally are taking points off the board that they can't get through no fault of their. Like, there's so many gamey ways that could go.
it's just interesting.
Scoring divided by 10 without decimal points is difficult.
I mean,
It's going to be a very difficult thing.
I'm not. It's weird because I'm not worried about it, if that makes any sense. I'm sure they're not more like maybe that's why they, to address Sean's earlier point, maybe having this 1 point thing in the middle is what fixes that. Like maybe
Right.
you needed a second way to score points because of a weird way rounding was working. They found that it didn't, the games didn't feel resolved properly, so they added this. I don't know. It's like this basically to prevent fortressing statement is someone's assumption. Like
Yeah, I think there's
it's
way more to it than it. I agree.
like
Because
Which is why I brought this point up.
yeah.
well, and that's the thing is that I haven't listened and I won't listen to the podcast, but I would hope that we're getting just information straight from the horse's mouth and no interpretation.
Oh, there's if you're reading this when Ed's reading them out, this is paraphrased, so this is through the lens of somebody else. This isn't verbatim what they were saying. So I would take a bunch of those kind of statements with a pinch of salt. Saying that this is basically to prevent fortressing. Right.
I don't know that I agree with
I
that.
mean, it might be
It,
the primary motivator, but like as Sean said, there's a bunch of other things that they can do and are doing if the bumping stuff like that does this as well. So like maybe there's a multitude of
No, I
factors
get
kind
it.
of thing. But yeah, I think that's enough on Dogfight, Ed. I can't do it anymore. We're done.
Okay, you're done.
Yeah.
So my final closing thought before we move on is that same point is like it's going to be interesting to me to be fighting in a dogfighting scenario where the game could end on turn 6 or 7 because someone's reached 20 points and the game hasn't come to what we would consider in previous editions and previous versions of the game as a natural conclusion. So it's just something we're going to need to get used to because all of the other missions are exactly the same way because every single one of them has 5 objectives in it.
The one that really,
which I have a statement on, but
I had a feeling you might.
The thing that really interests me on this side of it that I find strange, and maybe it's just for the sake of like tournament scoring, so you score on scenario points rather than scoring on MLB and stuff like that. But like, there's no reason why the dogfight scenario couldn't be 10 points for your objective and it's on a scale of 1 to 200.
correct.
So,
Correct.
Given that I don't think that these people are morons,
I don't think they are either.
Yeah, there must be a reason why. I mean, maybe it's important that they all score the same way, as I say, for tournament scoring. And maybe they find that is more important than the intricacies of the divide by 10 for dogfight. So, yeah, I don't know.
I do find one thing though that it does kind of go against their in my opinion it goes against their if you don't have a 200-point list you're giving points away because you're basically getting the points are getting back in this
And
it
someone's
allows
going to do it too, Sean. Someone's going to do
yes where I could build 190 points, give you 10 points, and still, because it's only 1 point in the bit, at the end result, and still win it because I'm able to center objective the game.
Well, I was thinking more of the scenario where I could go 10 points down, give you 10 points, but because the half points on all of my ship gain those right back.
Mm-hmm. That
Before
too.
yeah. All right, we'll move on to the next one. This one we've already seen on stream, but that is the Assault on the Satellite Ray. 5 objectives, 1 in the center, 4 placed by other players on the board. Score 1 point for whoever has the most ships within range 1 of each objective. Large and medium base ships count as 2 ships. Large ships could theoretically score 2 objectives at once if they were placed in the correct spot. Not a ton to cover over in this one because we've already physically seen it on stream actually played. But if there's more we want to add to it, by all means, feel free. But I think we've already kind of covered that one to death whenever we saw it.
Yeah, this one is.
This is a 40k mission. That's what this is.
It's only. I think this is like a standard area control kind of mission.
It
like,
is.
Lots of games have them, and it's the one I feel like I like the most because my brain can interpret it the easiest.
Yep.
And like I said, we've seen it on stream, so it's like,
Yep.
Yeah, I can see how that would work, and like how I'd kind of, but like thinking about my lists from earlier, how I would use those to try and control these, and like what choices I'd make, and like some of the lists that I've made just can't. Like,
won't survive in this scenario.
Well, another thing too is I think that this needs to go to that kill team method where if they're on your side of the board, they're worth less than if they're on your opponent's side of the board. That's just me, and that's because if I'm putting 2 close ones, we're just capping points easily
like
at the beginning of the game.
Are worth 1, the one in the center is worth 2, and the ones on your opponent's side are worth 3. Yeah,
worth 3. Yeah,
I could see something like that. Maybe we'll see that in another season. Like
the problem with speaking from experience of that in other games, it kind of skews the factions and stuff. And
yeah, if
I agree. I agree.
Like some. Again, like Slam just becomes stupendously good because I can get to the middle before you can even get there, so you can't clear the middle. I can contest your ones, and if you rush to try and get mine, I already have. Yeah,
you're ahead of the game. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying that,
but to me, this is just if I'm going to play this, okay, I'm going to do large base ships. I'm going to move slow, cap mine at 2 points. If they played small base ships, they're capping theirs at 1 point. And so on and so forth. Get to the middle, I'm going to cap it at 2 points. They're going to cap it at 1 point. And keep going. And then I just play the chase game after that where I capture 1. If I have 2 ships and capture 4 points in the first turn because I put mine as close to my territory as possible, now I'm at a 4-2 against them.
That's for one scenario, though. So, like, I agree with you.
No, but that's my point. That's my point is that if you're going to score it this way, you're given the advantage to large base ships in that you're 2-1ing small base ships, unless every ship captures, and then I just don't know how this solves the fortress.
Oh, I don't think this is a.
I think you've got to play it, Sean. I don't like. I think you're right. I think that the style of list you're talking about would have an advantage in this kind of scenario until I start shooting you. Because, like, if I let you get 12 points up, but I've killed 2 of your ships, which gets me to 8, and then I can start, like, herding you off them and stuff like that. So are you just going to, like, just one hard around them with your big bases while I just pummel you? No, like, and one of the things they spoke about, which I don't know that it's definitely not covered in this, but one of the things they spoke about is like you 100% can take a list that specializes in one of these scenarios. if you're at a free range event and that scenario doesn't come up because they're just randomly generating them,
Right.
then what do you do?
Or I'm thinking even worse in the scenario where you're in a large event and you're going 8 rounds, the scenario that you've
You
catered to
play
your
it twice, yeah.
twice, and then
Yeah.
the other 6 rounds are rounds that you like. That's what I'm saying. So, like in theory, could you list build to capitalize on one of these scenarios? Sure, absolutely. The other 3 are going to get crushed because you're not built for the other scenarios.
I was gonna kind of touch on this at the end, but I feel like now is probably a more appropriate point in the conversation. But I feel like if you ask me to predict what X-Wing looks like the moment these drop, I think that it doesn't change. I think people focus on the dogfight and try to adapt the play style into the scenarios. Because if you're killing your opponent's ships, naturally you're gonna gain an advantage anyway. And like, yeah, maybe 2 ship lists are dead. Maybe a 2 ship list just isn't gonna kill stuff fast enough to outmatch the pace of the scoring of these objectives. Like, yeah, I personally am kind of veering away from 3 ship lists. I'm like 4 ships kind of a minimum I want to mess around with at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, we lost Sean there. I was still a little bit worried. He's back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to do that when my earbud. So I just jumped to another channel, so back down.
Yeah, no.
But real quick on this, I do have one question. So, what about asteroids? Are you going to bring asteroids to the table now? Like asteroids?
I don't think that changes.
Asteroid. No. Because asteroids, I'm talking asteroids cause damage. Asteroids does a lot more to the game. Where if you brought a debris cloud or a gas cloud or other stuff, why I would rather have that if I'm playing this type of scenario than an asteroid, because I'm going to guarantee you I'm probably going to have to fly over some debris to capture some of these, these things, and to be able to have an advantage to help kill ships, you have to have actions and things like that at the same time. So
I don't
you don't
know.
want to damage yourself.
Yeah, I don't know what how if you guys know, but obviously they spoke about the new obstacles as well and what they're gonna do. So asteroids, if you fly over an asteroid, you take a damage, and then you roll a dice, and if it comes up a hit or a crit, you take a damage. So rocks could now do 2 damage.
Yeah, they're direct hit, potential
yeah.
direct hits now.
Debris, I believe, was roll for damage, but auto gives you a stress. And then gas clouds was auto strain, and roll a dice, take an ion on hits and 3 ions on a crit. So you can ion. Oh, and they break all locks as well. So you can potentially ionize yourself on gas clouds.
Yeah, personally myself, I see KG players putting obstacles right next to objectives for that exact intent of, if you're going to go for that and try to park around that, you're going to be paying for it.
No, it's not even. I put like the big asteroid on your the way Sean was talking about it, the 2 on my side. I'm gonna put the rocks to protect the ones on my side. So if you want to come straight at them, then you've got to fly through the rocks to get there, or go around them and slow you down.
Yeah. So because not only do you have objectives on the table, here's how I would love to see objectives. The next one we talk about, I hate because and it's because I've played this before in X-Wing at our league, and it doesn't work well. But that's from a lot of testing this. In what we did before, it did not work very well. But to get back to this, I would almost rather see scattered dice in play and objectives move. I would rather see that than have them be static. Because if you want a strategy game. If you want to talk about a game where you have to think every single turn and plan, well, you have to plan things not being in the same place at the turn.
I'm just gonna pause, Sean, because I want to try changing the server because your audio is going really, really weird. So
Yeah, I was wondering if it
125.
was just me.
Let me restart. Let me restart the whole thing. Hold on.
Yeah, no, it's just really strange, Sean. Like the pacing and the pitch and tempo and everything's
Yeah,
just weird.
you start off talking normal,
Yeah,
and
let
then
me
you speed it really, really fast, and then you slow down. It's
Yeah.
really bizarre,
Oh
actually.
yeah. It's probably the Wi-Fi, for my Bluetooth on the
Yeah.
new computer. I got to get a new Bluetooth antenna, but let me quit out and I'll come right back into Discord.
Yeah. I'll not bother anything any of this site. It was fine, but then I was like, oh, it's gonna keep doing it. I should probably try and fix it because I
Well, and I
can't.
don't know.
Okay, how does it sound now?
Yeah,
c-
good.
You're good now.
When it
I-
does it, just tell me, and then I'll quit out and come back in.
Yeah,
So I don't know
think
if anyone else is hearing it too. I thought it was just me, but I keep hearing Discord bleeps, and I don't know if that's just me or if anyone else is hearing it. Because I keep looking at mine, going, "Am I getting notifications that I'm not seeing?" I'm like, "No, I'm not."
I'm not getting anything like that. I mean,
Okay,
Discord's gonna be Discord. You know,
yeah.
like there, I just heard one just now. Did anyone else hear that?
So is it when
Okay.
I'm talking?
I'm trying to isolate it, but we've all been talking at the same time, so it's really
Yeah.
hard.
So
So it probably is just me. I just don't know where it's coming from because I have all the other stuff muted.
yeah, I have everything muted, so I don't know if it's coming from me. Then it's through my Bluetooth setup. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, if nobody else heard it but me, then it's either that or I'm having a psychotic episode. Both answers I would accept. It's probably true.
So let's talk. I'm interested to hear about the one that Sean hates because this is the one that's the more. I mean, before we get it's the one that we've got the least information. Right, this is the opposite of the assault on a satellite array, where we've got a lot because we've seen it. Like, there's a lot of spurious stuff in this that we
This
don't
is
really
also the
know
one
how it works. It's pretty vague. So
I think this is the one. If it plays the way that I think that they're going for, I think has the most probability of being the most problematic of the four.
Right.
But let's get into it. So this is called Carry the Crates. There are 5 objectives around the table. Again, going off the notes that someone else took from the developers is not directly from the developer's mouth. So there are 5 objectives around the tables. Scenario is the action. You have to take an action to pick up the crate, which means you're dropping a focus. You're not doing any of those. While carrying it, you have restricted dial actions. It says in the quote more like a Y-wing, so I'm really kind of curious as to how they're going to handle that, especially if my dial on my ship doesn't match that of a Y-wing. How do I handle that? But we'll get to that later. If someone rolls a crit when shooting at you, you drop the crate. If you roll a crit, if a crit goes through while you're on them, that's a really weird wording on that.
yeah. So what the guy's trying to say? Because obviously I listened to this, I know what he's referencing.
Yeah. Okay.
They were talking about if you're running away with a crate and someone shoots you and they get a crit, you drop the crate. But they weren't clear on if the crit has to land or if I just have to have rolled it.
Oh, I assume it's back. I assume I have to
Yeah.
land.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I would assume that would have to land. And crates earn points each round. So this is the go out and capture the flag and then running around with it until you get shot. This is the one that I feel
different flags.
5 different flags. This is the one that I feel is going to be the most problematic for, I don't know if necessarily for the reasons that everyone else might think it's going to be. I think it's going to be problematic because you have the possibility is if you really wanted to. First of all, it says crits if a crit goes through. So technically there are ways that I could self crit. So can I just park objectives in a corner surrounded by obstacles and say go get them and just set you up kind of thing? But yeah, the moving the objectives around the board is really going to be kind of, I think, the one's going to be the most problematic. For example, so like does it follow behind the ship? Does it follow to the side of the ship? Does it follow to the left, to the right? What if you have a bomb and you drop and it's behind?
I'd assume you actually just put it on the ship card, you'd think. Like,
okay, so like the old ball in Blood Bowl where you just put it on the base of the ship and just kind of run with it, carry the football kind of thing.
I mean,
And
I would
that's
hope
fine if
so.
that's how that.
Like, what 100% that is an assumption, because I
Yeah.
feel like having to every time you move and then barrel roll, having to like move a token around with you just feels like a pain in the ass.
Well, and I was thinking of
Oh.
weird scenarios, like if you're carrying it behind you and you do a K turn where you're just at the edge of the mat,
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean.
the crate goes off the mat. What happened?
Surely you just put it on your ship card. Just feels like the easiest.
Yeah, yeah. I'm all for the Blood Bowl solution for that one, where you just put the ball on the base of the character that has it. I'm okay with that. I don't know. It just seems. We get into those scenarios. We just got done talking about this in the dogfighting ones, where you could literally you have ships that could quite literally, if they chose to, racetrack around the board and never get touched. If you have two of those ships and they're just racetracking around the board with those objectives, that could be really interesting.
So the one for me that I like on this one is like, oh, if TIE Swarms are dead, are they? Because I'm pretty sure if I just take Delmico, Iden, and a bunch of academies, all my academies speed forwards at initiative 1, take the scenario action, and then Delmico and Iden come along and go, well, you know, you landed a crit. Well, I'm going to cancel all of that damage, aren't I? You didn't land a crit. Oh, man. Just
So with this one, you could never play a 2-ship build.
No.
Because you would lose just right off attrition off of it's a 3-2 score pretty much, you know, when you're figuring this out. The second thing is getting a crit through can be difficult, especially if you're playing 3 defense dice ships who can actually do things. I mean, the second part of this,
sure, I can't even roll crits, never mind land them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The only time I roll crits is when I roll over debris.
Yeah. I mean, all I can see is having a bunch of advanced proton torpedoes in the game now, because you have to land crits to get them to drop them. The third thing is that going to a restricted dial, I think that's going to be a difficult thing to do. Now, once again, we don't know. Once again, that's conjecture, so we don't know it. But if that is the case, then that's going to become very difficult. To me, if I'm doing this, if I'm designing this one, I'm putting 2 on the board total. One is a red, one is a blue, one side's a red, one side's a blue, and it's literally a capture the flag style game. Also, they need to make it so that if you do a red maneuver, you drop it. Because if you're going to restrict that dial down to a Y-wing, make it so that red maneuvers, because here's the problem. We did this probably 5 times, and tried to refine it better in our league. We only did 4 tokens. We didn't do 5. We did 4 because we wanted to keep it even so 2 ship lists could have a chance to win. In this, the scoring was different. You know, it wasn't a 20-point scoring and all that. But you said it, Ed. This becomes a racetrack game at that point. Yep. A Y-wing, even, and we'll use the conjecture, a Y-wing still has a good dial. It's not a bad dial.
The dial. It's not that bad, and it doesn't.
But
say
it can move. It can move 4 straight.
And that's what I was going with ships that got pushed. It doesn't say anything or slam. That doesn't say any of them can't do their 3 straight and then push and do another 3 straight.
Correct. And that's the thing, is that I know that we don't know. I know that we don't know everything around this. That this is just a brief interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
The second part of it is how crates score. You know, is it if you're holding it at the end of the round it scores? Do you continue to hold it?
Crates earn points at the end of the round, so yeah.
But do you drop the crate at the end of the round, or do you continue to hold the crate? Because now...
My guess would be that you perform the action to pick it up, and then you continue to hold it until something causes you not to hold it.
Which means you have to put red maneuvers in, because crits are far and few between, in essence, until you're playing against somebody who rolls hot dice all the time and gets tons of crits. That's my point, is that this right here, if it's not a drop every round, and then you can't pick up the same crate, you know, the next round, you can get some very nimble and maneuverable ships that...
All A-wings?
That becomes the I'm just going to fly away type game. And if I have
in
2, 3,
multiple
4.
different directions.
Yes. And if I have, A-wings have 3 defense dice.
They do.
And if I can make sure you don't shoot at me this round, and then next round I continue to carry it, I get an action next. And now that creates more issues because now I got to roll a crit to knock it off.
The only reason, one of the reasons why I think that this is going to be another.
I could just kill you as well, then you'll drop it.
Right.
Which is what I would do if I'm playing this scenario. If I'm playing any of these, I'm just bringing ships lists that I think can take ships off the table. I'm not going to worry about objectives at that point. I mean, yes, I'll try to get some if I can, but I'm going to bring, kind of like your Darth Vader list that you played against my IGs. That's a great list to have with this because it's powerful enough to take ships off the table, do damage and take ships off the table in all of these scenarios. To where if you play mid game and try to design for the scenarios, I don't think you have a chance at winning. But if you design your list to take ships off the table just like a dogfight, just like you would in a regular dogfight, that's how you play this game. You're just
only area
kill factor.
The second area of concern I have with this particular mission is it's very alpha strikey and not necessarily alpha strike on the I come in and I blow up 2 ships on turn 2 alpha strike.
Right.
It's the I come in and grab 3 objectives right away, and even if it takes you 2 rounds to load me up, I'm at 6 points, 8 points by the time you've taken 1 ship out. And as we discussed before in previous missions, it's a first to 20. So there is a distinct possibility that faster lists will have a larger advantage. Although you could make the argument that slower ships have an advantage in one of the other previous ones.
The one thing I think we might not be considering in this conversation is that it's a scenario action. So you're using your action to pick it up. And say you're playing A-Wings, Sean, or Ed's playing Interceptors. Yeah, we're 3 agility, but I know where they have to go to pick up these crates, and I know that turn you're not getting an action. So I'll take my 5 X-Wings and just slowly fly up in front of them, focus, and just shoot. I'm not going to claim a single objective this round, but I am going to put 15 dice into your naked agility. Let's see what happens.
And that's what I'm going to play these. And I'll take, like Kris said, 5 X-Wings, and I can now put on the table and just try to erase you.
Yeah, because
they said you get it and you run away.
Well, it's not even that, is it? It's like they said that you're gonna get points for killing ships. So if you've got an A-wing is 40 points, but if you've got any upgrades on it, okay, so you get 3. I get 0. I kill your A-wing. So you don't have 3, you have 2. So you've got 2, I've got 4 points now.
Right.
Yeah,
no, I get it.
Next turn, you're going to get 2 more, and the onus is on me to kill something again. But then I can pick up the one that you drop. You know what I mean?
But my point is, Kris, is that let's just say all 5 A-wings pick them up and survive. Okay? And now they... because if I'm in an A-wing and I'm picking it up, I'm dialing in, the longest maneuver away from X-wings or any other ship that I can.
Cranking up the speed at that point.
Exactly. Well, so again, now I'm at least 2 turns.
Again, we don't know what move like a Y-wing means.
No, I understand.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that that's why I was saying this one is the one that feels the most nebulous to me. There's so much of that, I don't like that. Then it's like, do I like that? I mean, I don't know. Does it matter?
Yeah, you're right. That Y-wing maneuver, that Y-wing like maneuver, is going to be a big contributing factor as to how well this plays out. Here's the funny part, though. I think this is going to be a fun scenario. I think this is going to be a boatload of fun to sit down and play this. I think it'd be oodles of fun, but I don't know that it fits well into a competitive one. But again, we don't have enough information to know to see where this goes.
If I were to do this, if I were to do my league all over again and do this, what I would do is have each player have 2, a blue and a red player. Each one has 2 of them. They put them on the board, and then you have to destroy those. to get the points. So it's not points every round. It's destroy one and you get X points. Destroy both, you get X points add, another set of points added. So let's say 3 points each. You destroy those things. Now you're at 6. Now you have to kill ships too. For you to win, now you have to go out there and kill ships.
I mean, this is. I don't know.
Here's my thing.
I would. Yeah, go on, Sean.
Well, objective-based games to me. So you got to remember, I didn't come from the 40K realm. I did not come from the realm of other games that have objective basing in the game. I came into a dogfight game that you just killed everything on the board and walked away. The problem to me with objectives is if I'm doing the same thing, and hopefully they come up with more, but I played Dragon Wing, which was very, very objective-based game.
That was the D&D version of X-Wing kind of thing.
Yeah,
I remember that.
But those games where you capture, it was a single capture, you got the points, and it was done on most of their objective stuff. It wasn't, you kept capping to get the points. It literally was, you did it once and you got the points, and that was fun. That made it interesting because then it was still a dogfight game at the end of that one, in essence.
40K used to have, I'm dating myself and I apologize. 5th edition 40K used to have a mission called the Relic, which basically there was a single objective in the center of the board, and it was literally capture it and take it with you. You were limited on your movement and how fast the unit could move that had it. But once you had it, you had it. But other units could, okay, I'm going to blow away that unit of Space Marines that's got it. I'm going to go and pick it up, and I'm going to take it over here. And the primary objective is whoever held the relic at the end of the game, they're the ones that won. It was all the points right there. That was an interesting scenario, but it was also one of the most hated scenarios because you had units that were much, much faster than others. You had bike units and scout units that went out and grabbed it, and then they would just fortress themselves behind, all right, you've got to go through all of my army to get the relic because I've got it buried in my corner now.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like there's too many.
There's too many. There's too much.
It's not even like as in there's too much. We're bringing too much baggage into it. I think.
Probably.
I think you're always going to bring baggage into it.
That's the entire fun of the show, Sean. Like,
exactly.
People are here to listen to our baggage. But what I'm saying, to make an objective review of what this means is, like, realistically, what we should have said is carrier crates. There isn't enough information here for us to have an opinion. It's the correct. That's a correct answer.
That is the correct answer.
That is the correct answer.
It's the least fun answer, but you know what I mean? I'm just making sure that perspective is kept before we move on.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that should be the cap on this. And I do think you started with that. This is the one that's the most nebulous that we have the least amount of information on.
Yeah.
But here's some opinions on if this is going where I think that they're going. All right, and the last one, it's funny, Sean had, I think, kind of mentioned something similar to this earlier, is the Scramble the Sensor Array. Also 5 objectives, so if you're keeping score at home, it's 1 objective, 5, 5, and 5. So your 2-ship builds are probably going to struggle 3/4 of the time in all the other scenarios. Perform a scenario action within range 1 of the objective holder to claim an objective by placing a token on it. If unclaimed, you can claim it. If claimed by an opponent, you remove their claim token, and then you have to roll to see whether you claim it or not. Now, that's the only part that they kind of like, I'm like, ugh. So basically what you're going to have, you're going to have 5 stationary objectives throughout the game, and it's fly over, claim, 5 reclaim. Oh, that one's flipped from red to blue, that one's blue to red, and then your scoring points as you go along. That could be a ton.
I'm going to take umbrage with you in the middle of that, and I can give you a clear reason why, which I think is going to convince you that you're wrong.
As you often do, you tend to prove me wrong often. By all means, please do.
So I believe what you're saying is that whoever gets there first can just take an action and they claim it. Whoever gets there second can take an action and they unclaim it, and then might claim it on the basis of a dice roll. And you didn't like the randomness of that dice roll being needed.
Correct.
So what happens if, like, why do we need to buff Initiative 6 more? Because Initiative 6 is always going to get there last.
That is a fairly good point.
Because this isn't a not like you're thinking about this in the context of 40k, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The your choices are fixed in X-wing in the order you can move ships.
That's a fairly good point. Because you're right, I could go to an objective within range one, and then your I6 could come in and then unclaim it and then reclaim it all
Yeah.
in the same turn. Okay, all right, I can see that. The only thing I don't care for about the randomness one is I wasn't thinking that scenario. I was thinking the far off outpost one over there that's red that I want to flip blue, and I send my TIE fighter over to get it, and I flip it, or I unclaim it for you, and then I have to spin back around to claim it again. That's
Just hard one. It's fine. You've got a TIE fighter.
yeah, that is true. That is true. Right into the rock, but I'll be there to claim. Oh wait, I can't take a night action.
Well, it's one of those like I can see like watch on again coming back. Yeah, cool. Like if you think about it, my I1 moves and claims one of them. The other 4 are still unclaimed.
So
then yeah, go on, Sean.
That just drives me nuts. So we have an initiative-based game, and we have, I1 gets it, then I6 bully comes and beats him up and takes it. Okay, why don't in this scenario we say all ships are 0, or initiative 0, and it's an I go you go from that point on. So instead of having it to where your strategy in this is having higher pilot skill ships that can just kick the crap out of the pawn on the table, we make it so that it's an I go, you go, no matter what your initiative level is. It's only one scenario that you do this. And then every turn...
Do I get a discount on my initiative 6 pilots I had to pay points for?
I was just going to say that.
Well, but you're building for a tournament. You're not building for a scenario. We've talked about that earlier today. This scenario just changes the format of the game.
Remember, I remember you saying for dogfight that like you're creating problems to fix a problem.
I understand, but if you're going to have a scenario like this, you have a problem automatically. The problem comes down to you move a ship, gets in within range 1, caps it, and I'm doing air quotes on capping it.
Yeah.
And then my big baddie comes in that I spent 80 points for, rolls up on a ship, points it at it, and says, okay, I'm going to roll to take it from you. I get it from you, and now I blow you off the board because I'm a initiative 6 kick-ass ship.
You wouldn't have your action, though. I mean, that's. I mean, you probably have force because why wouldn't you? But
exactly.
You wouldn't have an action.
Yeah.
But so what? When you went and came back, what I was saying to Ed was like the I1 goes and claims one of the 4, then the opponent I2 goes, and is it going to go and attempt to claim that one back so we had to nullify the I1, or is it going to go to a different one and claim a different one?
Well, that would be your strategy. That would be within your...
But then, like, do you? Because then was the second, like the original player's I3 then moves next to the I1, and then because you didn't go and unclaim it, they've got nothing to do. But if you did go and unclaim it, they unclaim it and reclaim it. Like you get into the thing of like, I don't mind the potential to not claim it. I think is nice. I like that it's not an automatic. Oh, you've got it, so I take it. Yeah, I've got it. You take, because I think that does devolve into we all fight over one objective. The other 4 are ignored.
Exactly.
I think
it comes back to my dogfight, where everybody just meets in the middle and it becomes a big run into scrum.
Yeah.
One thing, Kris, I would love to see with scenarios in all of these is that all of these things are one-time cap. So if one player goes and grabs all 5, they get 5-point advantage over the other player, and then it becomes a dogfight game after.
I don't know. I don't think any of these games are going to end without ships being blown up.
No,
Oh
I
no!
agree.
Oh
I
no!
totally agree with that. But my point is that, like I said earlier, not too long ago, I'm not going to bring X-wing to play scenarios. I'm going to come and play X-wing to blow ships up.
Yeah,
And the scenarios are the afterthought in my lists. It's if I'm lucky enough to cap something, great. I mean, I'm not going to change my thought process because I put a bunch of other crap on the board that we have to keep track of. I'm just going to come and play X-wing still and try to blow your stuff up.
yeah. The thing I think that will happen is that it does open up, and this is one of the things he spoke about. So at the moment, it's not that X-Wing is a solved game, because every time a new ship gets released or a new upgrade comes out, it shakes things up and you have to reconsider everything again. Um, but the idea of what is good in X-Wing is pretty much solved. Like, we all know that an Initiative 6 Force user that's got boost and barrel roll and can do 2 actions a turn would be fucking amazing.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, Vader and the Defender is really fucking good.
Yep.
Like, is Vader and the Defender, can he have his sensor swap back if we have to worry about scenarios because it's 110 points or whatever he is?
Yeah,
Right.
that's the catch. Does Vader fit into a 3-ship build, and the meta shifts to a 5-ship build because of all the all
You
the
know, yeah,
is he
like,
still going to be able to keep up with all only having,
But
2 or
and
3 objectives a turn?
I think this goes back to 1.0 where you're going to have ships fall to the back of the book because they're not going to be able to keep up with scenario.
well, so I think that this completely changes the book, though, Sean. I
Yeah.
think
No.
that,
I agree with that portion of
yeah,
it. Yes,
and
but
like,
The generic meta is real.
no, but like, Vader's still gonna absolutely rock a dogfight. He's
oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
probably still gonna be okay at ones like Scramble or Sensor, one we're talking about now, where you'll get in. I use my action so that I could take the. I could claim one at Initiative 6. Luckily, I still get all hits when I shoot because I'm Vader and a Defender, and I have an evade
Right.
token because I'm Vader and a Defender. So I didn't
Yep.
really
Right.
need that action anyway. And then I can white K and get it again next turn if you try and take it from me. You
Right.
know, so yeah, so maybe Vader's good in half of them, but maybe he's utter fucking shite in Assault on the Satellite Array.
Yeah.
And like, but
But
what
then
the
that's why he
list,
flies with X amount of Academy tie.
yeah, but like the list you were talking about before, Sean, where you're going to take a bunch of large bases, like, that isn't something you could do now and gain any advantage
Right.
from. So
Right. No, I get it.
I think it opens up more than not having them, if that makes any sense.
But I think with the way the X-wing community is I think the majority of them are just going to ignore this and just play X-wing.
Well, it's
So
up to
I think
them. But
And
like,
I think you're right. I think in the very beginning, I think that's exactly what's going to happen until
Yep.
the first time someone brings a list that is catered to 5 objectives.
but it's, what Sean's saying
And
is they're not going to play. They're just going to not play objectives.
no,
Is what it's
no, no,
saying.
no. Oh, you're talking like just flat out, we're not playing these rules, even though if we intend to
Even
go to any of the national events, this is how we have to play.
well, what
We're
I'm
just
saying is even at national events, I mean, I could ignore all these rules if my
right.
goal is to shoot your ships off the table.
Right. That's the scenario that I was talking about. And, I said,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I was wrong then. Yeah.
so in that scenario, I think it's the same thing that ever happens every time an edition changes. And I know we always keep drawing back to 40K, and I recognize that that's a different analogy. However, whenever an edition change happens, everyone always plays the list that they were playing before until they realize, oh wow, the game's changed. So you have that little buffer period in the beginning where everyone just plays it the way that it used to be played, right up until the time that someone comes with a list that's catered to those scenarios and wins
So
and does really really
so
well.
one other thing though with 40K, and I'm going to talk about Crisis Protocol here too, is those games were designed with objectives in the game design.
No, I know that,
And now you're putting objectives into a game that was never designed to have objectives.
Yeah, but isn't that kind of what this is all about, though? Isn't this about taking a game that was designed back in 2014
Well,
and 2013,
12,
12? You're right. I apologize. Taking a
probably
game that was
11 into 12, but yes.
yeah, taking a game that was designed 10 years ago and redesigning it. Like I agree with your perspective in the fact that well the game wasn't really designed for this and we're trying to like shoehorn these in. I think that they're taking a lot of things into account, which is part of the reason why like that ban and restricted list is going to be a thing. The fact that they're talking about doing, you know, a complete repoints shuffling. I think that they're taking all of those things into account. When you're talking about like the flight path system that is X-wing, and as far as I roll dice, you roll dice, the rest of the game I think is getting an overhaul and a new coat of paint. So
I'm not arguing that, Ed. I personally am not arguing. What I'm talking about are players that are dead set, and a lot of them are in that tournament scene where they just don't care. You know, they don't care what you're. I mean, yeah, they'll still cap shit because they're range one of something in one of the scenarios. You know, and luckily they'll get a point out of it. But ultimately, it still should just be a dogfight game. I mean,
maybe I'm just the eternal optimist, and I think that where I feel
and
that
the reason why I say
mean,
that, and I have to say this, I played Wings of War and Wings of Glory. Okay, they're this game objective based. So the whole point of that is objective because there are scenarios in it where it shoot down the balloon and do this, do that, and all of that. Now the game is different because it's not played with flight path; it's played with cards. And you know, in World War One version, you move very short. In World War Two versions, you move a little farther because you're playing off cards. And that was what you would call a true. It was designed for objective play, and that was I don't know if it was designed by Fantasy Flight or who did it, but they were one of the owners of it. But the Fight Path game, I think, is too fast. My personal opinion, from playing on a 3x3 mat, Wings of War and Wings of Glory, compared to X-Wing, this game is not designed for objectives. It never was. It's going to be very hard to incorporate objectives into it that make sense. Because you throw 5 things on the board. If I have a ship that can't move one straight, it makes it very difficult to do certain things in this game. If I have a ship that can't turn one to the right or left, it makes it very difficult to do things in this game. Where Wings of War, Wings of Glory, the way that their systems worked is you did your turns 3 ahead and I think 5 ahead in Wings of War World War One version, and then you flipped them. So you had to plot everything ahead, and you didn't know what was going to be there. And you could actually make up for it because you're always planning. This is a turn by turn planning, but you're running at much faster speeds, and the movement on the board on a 3x3 space is difficult. You know, I mean, Ed, I'll tell you this much: our league ran scenarios like this every week. We had one regular dogfight game and a scenario, and it was very difficult to do it. Now, Kris, I know that you're going to have something to say about this, but we did it a lot, and it became difficult because we had to take ships off. We had to not play with ships because either they were
Did
too
you
fast
go
or too
into a
slow.
game and fundamentally look at the mechanics of a game and rewrite the rules and repoint everything? No.
No,
Like,
not
did you
not.
put the amount of effort in that you think AMG are being paid to put in?
No, what I'm saying is from a game mechanic standpoint on the current game, you got to remember you have to sell this to the players.
No, you don't.
This is also no, yeah, you do.
No,
I mean,
you
you
don't.
can design it.
You literally
if
don't,
nobody-
Sean. All you have to do is go, this is what the game is, and then people either play it or they don't. And that's fine.
Right. I mean, the ultimate goal should be you want to keep your entire player base.
So one of the things I was going to say when you can't. Do you think that by doing nothing you keep your entire player base? How many people
No,
do you
I'm
know who
not-
don't play anymore?
Kris, I'm not talking about doing nothing, and I'm
No,
not.
no. What I'm saying is, Sean,
I'm talking about this,
churn
though,
is a thing. It doesn't matter.
It is.
None of it matters. Like the
Right.
people who play are going to play. The people who stop playing are going to stop playing. those might be different people after this happens. But there's no one can know if that number's gonna be higher or lower after it happens until it's happened. And one of the things when you were saying about, like, the competitive players and stuff like that, to be honest, I really don't care, because
I know that.
that's
I
not
know.
me anymore. I don't need to care. I'll still do this podcast if I never play in a tournament again. I'll run the stuff that I do for work and pleasure. I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy doing it, but I don't feel like
But
like
ultimately, your league is similar to a tournament. Your anything that you run that has prizes is very similar to a tournament. You run a league as like a 10-week tournament. You score points, you do this, you do that, winning games or whatever your league system is designed on. But if
but
the game isn't, if the game, to me, I heard that it's like the way that my brain works. With my autistic brain, I have an issue with some of this because even though I understand it because I've played other similar games that have it, I can't see it working well with X-Wing personally. Like, I want to play this because I think it's going to be fun as a casual player to play it, and because I'm getting into 40K, which is an objective-based game, and I think that that's fun. But I haven't wrapping my head around it as a person who's running a league or doing anything like that, because the whole goal on a league night is to get people in the door to play. And with this, I see it being very difficult doing that with a lot of people.
I don't. But
With new players, no, because this is what they're going to know.
It's
But with players,
it's that competitive Omaha base right there. That's what it is.
It is. It is.
But it's like I would say that you must know a bunch of the people from first edition to second edition who were the exact kind of people you're talking about, who made demands of like the conversion kit thing. Oh, if I don't get to use all my toys, I'm just gonna quit. And then they got to use all their toys and quit anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that I know of that did weren't super competitive, but
yeah. How long do you cater to the people who've already spent their money? As an objective business decision, how long do I cater to someone who's already given me all of the money they're going to give me?
No, I get it, Chris. I'm like I said, I have two brains that I can't bring.
No, I don't really understand the negative tint that you're coming from, because
negatively. So hear me out, okay?
Yeah.
You got to remember my past with this game and my present with this game. So it would be hard for me to sell to current players because that's your player base at this point in time in a league. If we were because it was very hard to sell when we were doing it just for fun.
I agree, Sean, but what I'm saying is, why do you have to sell a list of players? If they want to go to the players you're talking about want to go to nationals, want to go to worlds.
No. The players I'm talking about are the 10 to 15 people that we had at league.
Yeah, but so the people who come and play in your star championships, the people who want to come and play at your regionals, because this is what your star championship is. This is what your regional is. You don't have to sell anything. These people will either continue to play X-Wing or not. You don't have to sell anything. You just do what you do, and those people either are playing X-Wing and will come, or aren't playing X-Wing and won't. And that's
no, I understand that. But for me, as a person who worked very hard to develop, a community, and who worked very hard to keep a community, every time a player quit, it was like a personal thing for me. That's the way that my brain. I didn't take it personally, but it was like a personal thing because of whatever the element was. Now, I dealt with a lot of people that are in the military that left just because they get orders and go. But I also dealt with a lot of people that played for a long time and then quit just because the game got too complicated. And they're people I'm actually still friends with. My three of my Wednesday night game night are those types of players.
Yeah, like the
Are the
people I
people who,
play, the people I play Arkham Horror with were people I
yeah,
met through playing X-Wing, and
me
neither of
too. Yeah,
those play X-Wing anymore.
right. None of those
Like,
three played anymore.
yeah, like,
But
and
they
that,
left because the game changed too drastically for
but
them,
like
and that's why they quit playing.
we still had 10 people at game night last night.
I get it.
Like
No, I
the
understand.
different people. But what I'm saying, the I think my point is, Sean, that what your concern is okay. You are right, but people will quit. But that's okay. Because that was going to happen regardless. We've watched it
Yes.
happen. Nothing in that regard, nothing's going to change. I don't
Right.
think that these changes affect that in any way. I think that there will be people who were vehemently against it, who turn up and play, and it doesn't actually affect their attendance of gaming and how much X-Wing they play at all. They'll complain about it right up until the point that it's the rules, and then they'll just play it because that's the rules. You'll also have people who are like, this seems really interesting, I'm really excited, try it, and go, oh, I don't like this at all, and quit. Like,
You might you might have those players who walked away from competitive play because it wasn't their cup of tea, who see these and go,
I agree with
no,
that
but
too.
like,
I
every example we can think of, there will
yeah,
be someone who, like, you know
yep.
what I mean?
It's just like I said, it's hard for me to register the two sides of my brain in this because as a community organizer, having a drastic change like this is very difficult because it's hard to lose people you've known for years and years because of something like this, and it's fun for me as a player because this is kind of what I wanted as a player is more going back to that Wings of War, Wings of Glory. I don't agree with the scenarios they're doing because they're too linear. The scenarios are all very much basically the same. You're just putting different lipstick on different pigs with this. But, you know, once again, we don't know what the end result's going to be. But as a player, as me, I'm hoping that it's much more, much deeper than these four scenarios that we have now. That's as a personal player, that's what I would like to see. As an organizer, it's very hard for me to wrap around this. But I'm not an organizer. I'm just
yeah,
a
that's
I'm
why,
just a
because
crappy podcaster on a great podcast.
like, that's what I
That's
mean. When you're saying about, it's hard for me to lose people of this, it's like, but you're not. You've already lost those people, Sean. Like, that whatever
well,
this, like, you lost those people 2 years ago when COVID happened and FFG got the game taken off
oh
them.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
realistically,
When
that's when you lost those people. Whatever happens here is not relevant to those
correct,
people at all.
but I'm not throwing COVID, and I'm not taking that. It's
Yeah.
just like I said, it's very hard for me. There's a part of me, Chris, that it's hard for me to explain about the duality in my brain that I can't come to grips with one side of this, but I can come to grips with it as a player because it looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We
Like,
we tested Road. We tested Road. Road is awesome. I love Road because it doesn't change the game. That didn't change the game at all to me.
yeah.
You
And
know,
I don't know. I don't know that it didn't change. I think there are. I think
I
there are
think there's corner
minor.
cases. There are corner cases,
Right.
just like in X-wing when you had, just like in X-wing when you had the fortressing was a corner case. When you had all these other corner cases, the problem is those corner cases are what gets amplified within this game in any gaming community. It's those exploits. People exploit something and they take advantage of it. But it's a very, 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 very small percentage. But we have all these rules changes because of that small percentage. And
I
then we
don't.
have
I disagree. I disagree. I think the reason we get these rule changes is because when AMG took over, they are from the same kind of background myself and Ed are, and they looked at
correct.
the game and thought, "Oh, this is a bit weird. Why don't you have all of this cool stuff in it?" And then
Yeah.
decided
Yeah,
to put it
yeah,
in. But I I feel like you're assigning a motivation to these that I don't think exists.
I'm not saying it's a motivation. I'm just saying it's like you said. They're different. They come from a different type of
Yeah,
game.
I can't remember if we spoke about this privately or on a previous cast or whatever, but like when I take time to actually process the conversations I have with people who play X-Wing and are like apprehensive about these changes, and it's like when I process that they're from like card games and Magic, and they're used to like the cycle for something like hyperspace is normal because they're used to a card cycling out and um,
Right.
seasons and all of that kind of stuff, and standard and extended and modern and all of that. All of that is a norm. Whereas in they're not used to something like I would be used to, of like my entire army just being invalidated because all the points have changed and stuff. Um, like this definitely feels like a shift more towards it being a miniatures game for miniatures gamers by miniatures gamers. And that isn't, no matter what rule set they do, whether they kept it as just dogfight. I think once that design element is at the forefront, I think we lose those players at some point anyway. I think if you're set on X-Wing being a card game, the the movement of the ships on the table is a predetermined course, because in a dogfight, as it currently stands, that very much is the case. You you had perfect information if you did built your ship a certain way, played a certain way, used certain upgrades. The outcome of the game was pretty much decided if both people played perfectly, blah blah blah. Um, you could call the outcome of the game before it happened.
Yeah.
Whereas in this is supposed to try and add more variance into those mixes, so that kind of thing is harder to do. But
Yeah. And here's the thing. Next 3 podcasts, basically, we're going to play games. Correct.
That's the
we're gonna
plan.
try and
That's
get games with these scenarios as much as we
with the
like.
scenario.
We can't really touch carry the crates because we don't have enough information. But I feel like we can probably have a crack at the other one.
Do the other two. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, as stupid as it sounds, like even the dogfight one, we can play it, but we don't know how everything's gonna fit together because, like I said,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't know how the does it round up, does it round down?
No,
Even
totally.
something as little as small as that little thing completely changes the balance of that
How it comes
scenario.
out.
And
Correct.
so I'm all in on actually playing these and seeing what we think. I'm not this is like um watching The Force Awakens. Like I cannot tell you how I feel about any of this until I've got all of it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like
I'm with you on that, 100%.
yeah,
But I like this idea of just, at least with the information that we have, seeing if we can reconcile this,
yeah.
within ourselves. Is it fun? Is it, what's the mental aspect of it that you're playing that makes this fun? It's up until recently, other than a little bit of Dragon Wing that I played, I never really paid attention to scenarios except for in Wings of War, which was the slowest god awful game when it came to trying to capture things, shoot shit down, and stuff like that.
And
Because the window is so small, and I'm interested to see what this will be like at a very fast paced game.
yeah, so like I said, I think thinking about my games last night, had it been dogfight, I don't know that it changes anything. Had it been assault on a satellite array, like I feel like I could have pretty much played fairly similar. In the second game, and if it's played in a 3-ship list, it would have been entirely different. Um, but and that's what I'm saying. Where I felt like X-Wing was really good fun. I enjoyed it, and I was like, "Oh, scenarios again." And there was that little bit of apprehension, and that's from someone who's really excited about it because I understand the purity of what we currently have, and that is going to change with what we're being given. I don't know if it's going to be better or not. I just know it's going to be different.
Yeah, definitely different.
I think that's a good place to call it a stop on that. That's a profound statement to end it on.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm
I think you're right, though. I think that's one thing that, and again, we are going to sit down and play at least through a couple of these scenarios, at least to kind of get a feel for it. But I don't think that I think we need to reserve judgment until we've physically seen the printed rules officially from AMG to know
Oh,
exactly.
absolutely.
and like
Absolutely.
the chances are we might even have them by the time we record
Yeah.
because
February's in a couple of days.
like they wanted to wait until after LVO is what they were saying on
Hmm.
the Fly Better thing, like
Which is currently happening right
yeah.
now.
So we might have them. We might Like, it might drop on Monday. Who could say? By the time you listen to this, it might all be entirely outdated
Yep.
because
And
we have
everything we said
scenarios
is
already.
wrong.
Yeah.
If that happens, I want you to go through and read those and go, "Oh man, Ed's so wrong about this because this is the real way that it's going to be." Please do that. Please do that.
Yeah. Oh,
All right, so I think that's a good stopping point. How do you like that? An almost 100%. I want to say a good 95% all X-wing show. Those usually tend to be the ones that are our best anyway. All right, so I'm going to say goodnight to everyone. Sean, always good talking to you, my friend.
Yep, it's great to be here.
Chris, I know you have some housekeeping to do, but it's always good talking to you.
well, it's always good to be here. If anyone would like to contact us, you can do so through our Facebook, which is Lack of Focus Podcast on Facebook. You can email us at lackoffocuspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to support the show, you can support us on Patreon, which would be Lack of Focus Podcast on Patreon, where we have a per episode that you can do. We normally just recommend to do it $1 a show. If you want to do more, great, it's awesome. If it's going to affect your life, obviously, please don't keep your money. And if you would rather do it, you can also support Dice Hate Productions on Patreon as well, which is a flat monthly thing. The other things that we should talk about is the Discord. Make sure you're in the Discord. I've been chatting about X-Wing in there this week, going through some lists and having a bit of a back and forth with some of the guys. There's a UK tournament going on where 4 listeners are all going there. So that seems like they're having fun. And you can obviously leave some comments on the video. Make sure you check out the YouTube. I've been trying to put a link to the VODs in so that you
Ooh.
can follow the VOD. So like, comment, subscribe on the videos. I need to do better at doing all of this stuff. But yeah, that's it. I will be painting on Sunday. I've got to get a Delac gang done because we're redoing a new Necromunda campaign. John, gone.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we finished the old one at the end of January, and then we're going to start a second campaign. So I'm changing my gang. So I've got my test model done that I did in the UK, and now I've got to finish the rest of them. But the weapons pack for Delac was supposed to be released today. Well, it was released today. Sentry boxes, new releases apparently got sent to a store in Ontario, but we don't have any for new GW releases at the moment. So I'm tempted to go to Games Workshop tomorrow and pay full price. I want the longer I don't have them because we want to start playing in February and I've got to get them built. So, but yeah, so I'll be painting anyway tomorrow night on Twitch, which is Dice Hate Kris on Twitch. You can watch me. I normally stream at least once a week. Yeah, that's it. I don't really think there's much else to add. We are creeping ever closer to 100 episodes.
Yeah. 5 more.
Yeah. One thing I did want to ask the listeners as well, if anyone is willing to look at the token designs for the laser cutter things, because I can't get it to work for the evade token, and I've been like banging my head against the guy who used to do them for me doesn't exist anymore. He doesn't have access to any of the equipment.
Oh no.
So I've got what was in Alan will cut them if I can send him a file. So I just need help creating that file. I'm gonna ask a few other people.
You should put that up as a poll in Discord.
We're doing the lack of evade tokens is what I need to do. I just need to actually get it made, like designed, so that I can send it. But yeah, then what else? Yeah, if I don't behind me, I've been making the next batch of healing potions for D&D. You can see me pouring
I saw that.
the
I
resin and
saw
everything.
that.
So I all of the ones I made sold, so I had to do another batch.
Did they? Look at that.
So if I have any left over, I'll post some pictures in the Discord for that as well. But I've got some greater healing potions and some healing potions. So once that resin sets, I'll be all over that.
Looks like fun.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it. I might Ed. I don't have anything else. I'll stop interrupting as you're about to do your closing, though.
That's okay. We've gotten pretty good at interrupting each other. I usually just stop talking. It's super easy. Usually.
Barely an inconvenience.
Barely an inconvenience. I love that guy. All right, so that is going to do it for episode 95. Do hope you enjoyed. And in the next couple of episodes, we'll probably have a game or two. If you want to sit down and watch that, that'll be a ton of fun as we kind of struggle through some of these brand new scenarios. So until next time, guys, as always, fly casual. Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out Dice Hate Productions for all the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.